Welcome to Lasem Athletics. My name is Lucas, and in this video I am going to show you how to set up a surfboard. To start with, let's have a look at a quick overview. I am going to show you how to remove an old traction pad and how to apply a new one. Next, we are going to have a look at fins. I'm going to talk about different types, and also I'm going to show you how to install them onto your board, and briefly I will touch on fin customization too. Then we are going to have a look at some additional stuff like leash and surfboard action camera mount. In this video I am going to set up actually my very first surfboard. I will be using it for classic surfing and also kite surfing. This board is made by the RRD brand and its specific model is Chatake V2 from 2015. It is in a size of 5 foot and 8 inches. All the principles you are going to see in this video can be applied to any other surfboard. With all that being said, let's get into it. When it comes to setting up your board, you want to consider using either traction pad or wax. Regardless of which one you're going to choose, its main purpose is to provide an additional grip on your board, which I refer to as traction. There are pros and cons of using either one of those, and me personally, I've got no experience of using wax, so I won't give you any in-depth insights about that, but I'm going to share with you how I made my decision to go with a traction pad. Let's talk about traction pad versus wax. Even before I've done any research on a surfboard wax, I remember seeing surfboards, at least from an aesthetic point of view, quite messy, simply said, dirty. After I've done some research, I found out that it's due to a usage of surfboard wax. A wax will act similar to how, for example, coconut oil or honey behave at different temperatures. So it either hardens or melts, and when it melts, it becomes sticky. Mainly, surfboard wax comes in a hardened solid state at room temperature, and in that state is applied onto your board. With direct sunlight, it will start to melt, and when it melts, it becomes sticky, and now your board, and especially the deck of your board, is more prominent to collect any dirt residue. So we all know that not every beach has got nice clean sand, so anything that you carry in form of a dirt on your feet or even on your wetsuit shoes can potentially transfer onto the deck of your board. On the flip side to that, a surfboard wax is supposed to provide you with the greatest additional grip you can get. In terms of a traction pad, I came across it and I've used it on the stand-up paddleboards. It is made of the EVA foam like a yoga mat or the puzzle mats used in dojos for martial arts. From my experience, a traction pad gives enough grip and it is much cleaner option in comparison to a wax. Many times I use a quiver or equipment bag for my kite surfing sessions, so I put all my gear inside of the bag like kite, bar, board, pump, and for sure I wouldn't allow a sticky, messy wax to mess it all up. On top of that, a traction pad provides additional layer of protection or cushioning to your board, not only when it's inside of a bag with a bunch of other gear, but especially when you perform jumps and tricks during your surfing or kite surfing sessions. That is why I decided to pick up a traction pad for my surfboard. Let's take a closer look at removing an old traction pad. It is as simple as peeling it off, but with a use of few tools, this process will become more efficient and a little simpler. What you'll need first is a heat gun or hair dryer. The reason for it is to warm up the surface of the pad, to be specific, the glue that holds it connected to the board. When applying the heat, remember to spread it evenly. This will prevent any unnecessary deformations or damages to your board. Also, work on a specific area rather than heating up the whole pad. It is very common that there is some glue residue left on a board deck after peeling the pad off, and it will take some effort to clear it all out. I am going to add here that before applying a new traction pad, you want to make sure that the surface of your board is smooth and clean. To get rid of remaining glue, we are going to use again a heat source in form of, for example, hair dryer. After engaging in some research, one specific method was the most common. That method required us to use a razor blade or other sharp blade to cut off remaining glue. To be honest, I was quite skeptical at first when I thought of putting sharp object directly against the surface of a board. Because of that, I decided to experiment with working out my own approach to it. First, I simply tried to rub it off with my bare hands, and surprisingly, it worked at the beginning, but very soon it became obvious that I won't be able to sustain it. All the rubbing gave me enormous blisters on my fingers, and even putting the gloves wouldn't make it any better. It took around a week for all the blisters to heal, so avoid doing that. It was time to change the approach. The next idea was to apply some warm water with a soap and washing up liquid dissolved in it, and to use a nail brush for scraping and a cloth for wiping. That method also worked, but it wasn't as effective as I wanted it to be. It would just take too long. At the end, I am returning to where I started, and that is the heat and blade method. I am pretty sure that there are also specific glue removal type of liquids which supposedly work quite well, but I just wanted to utilize what I already had. I can confirm that using a blade to remove previously warmed up glue is the most effective technique I've tried. There are a few things to remember and consider while doing it. First, avoid hurting yourself, and 2, avoid damaging your board. Be gentle and take your time. It is very easy to cut into your board or to scratch the surface of it. I accidentally made some small scratches in the process, but most of the ones you can see on top of the deck of my board have been there before, since I've got this board secondhand. Once you remove the whole residue of the glue, you can use some water or window cleaner to give a final wipe to your board. Now let's talk about applying our new traction pad. The main thing is to place it in a right portion of a board, since when it comes to surfing, you want to be able to perform precise turns like bottom and top turn, catbacks and other maneuvers on the waves. This is provided by the fins, but also you steering the board accordingly. And what helps you to achieve that is your stance on the board, and what comes with that, a location of a kick pad. So kick pad in essence is a traction pad with a heel, and it is placed at the back of your board. Let's have a closer look and see where and how to install it for the greatest performance. Depending on the fin setup of your board, the position of a kick pad will vary, but to establish its location, the same principles will apply. My board has the thruster fin setup, which means 3 fins, one of them at the far back. There are other boards with, for example, quad fin setup, meaning 4 fins with 2 of them at the far back. To establish a kick pad location for your board, you want to pay attention to those fins at the far back. By placing your board upside down, you can see where a slot for your very back fin, also known as fin box, ends. In simple terms, your aim is to align the end of that fin box at the bottom of your board with a beginning of a heel of your kick pad at the deck of your board. At the same time, check the alignment of your kick pad with the leash plug at the back of your board, and if needed, you may have to cut out a slot for it in your pad. When it comes to the type and shape of your traction pad, the choice is yours. Many boards have a designated traction pad for them, but that doesn't mean you cannot use different ones. In my case, I am swapping the original pad for one of my choice, and I purposely picked the one with a wider kick pad since the original one was quite narrow due to the shape of this particular board. I also had to cut my new pad to shape. It is very simple to do, and you can do it either with a cutting knife or the scissors. The most tricky part seems to be to cut it evenly on both sides of the pad. I also had to cut out a slot for a leash plug. The process of applying the traction pad on your board is fairly self-explanatory. It's like using a sticker. I am quite precise with it, so I am using the rulers, tape and pencil to mark my measurement. I can give you one very good tip which you can also use when applying other sticky items onto surfaces, and that is instead peeling off the whole protection sheet from a sticker, in this case from the pad, just cut through the middle portion of it and bend the edges a little bit. That way you can place it precisely onto the surface, and if you want to realign it, you will be able to do it with ease. When you are happy with your placement, start sticking the rest of it by peeling the protection sheet little by little. Even though my traction pad comes in pieces, my goal is to create one traction surface on the deck of my board. So I am sticking the pieces one right next to the other. Some people like to have gaps in between, but that depends a lot on the shape of their boards and the initial shape of the pad itself. You can be as precise and as quick with the whole process, including of how you want to spread your pad on your board, as you want. The choice is yours and the principles of how it's done are here. Our second topic is fins. There are three types of fins and fin boxes in surfboards. All fins look alike and the main difference between them is how they attach to your board. We distinguish future FCS and FCS2 type fins. In general, fins sit inside designated slots called the fin boxes and are secured with screws except the FCS2 fins, which don't require screws. My board has got thruster future fin setup. That means there are 3 fins, 2 side ones and 1 center thruster fin at the back. The center fin is rounded on both sides and 2 side fins are slightly bent and rounded on the outer part of them. We can recognize future fins by looking at their base, which is made of one rail with a cutout at both ends. One end slides into the fin box at an angle and the other one receives the screw. You also need hexagonal fin key to tighten the screws. You can also easily recognize future fin box when you see one screw next to each fin slot at the top of it. The FCS and FCS2 fins look the same. They have got 2 extensions at their base, which I refer to as teeth. The FCS fins are secured by 2 screws, one of each side of the fin box. The FCS2 fins don't require any screws since the FCS2 fin box has additional bracket inside which holds the fins securely in place. Another creative thing you can do with your fins is to customize them. I have got dedicated video on that matter. Check it out by clicking at the top of the screen, and I'll see you there. Our third and final topic of this video is additional stuff or add-ons. There are different types of leashes in general. There's one specific for surfing and other ones which you want to avoid. A surfing leash is made of non-expandable cord, so when you separate from your board, it is much less prominent to spring back at you. As you can see, when I try to stretch the surfing leash, it won't flex. The other type of leashes to avoid are coiled expandable leash or straight expandable leash. As you can see, they are very prominent to flex and stretch. You can use them with, for example, stand-up paddleboards on a flat water, but you want to avoid them for surf. Also, important aspect is length of the leash. Since I'm going to use my board for kite surfing and surfing, I went for 8-foot one, which is around 2.5 meters. So what's the difference in length? When the leash is too short during a crash, it can bring your board dangerously close to you. And when it's too long, it can generate undesirable drag and slow you down while surfing. The 8-footer seems to be a good balance for a board of a size of 5 foot 8 inches. At the back of your board is a leash plug attachment. The leash itself comes with a string that has to connect there. The very good practice is to make sure that the string is not reaching past the tail of your board when under tension, because if it does, during a crash it can rip through your board, causing serious damage to it. To prevent that, simply readjust the knot on the string and move it closer to the plug. Should you be using a leash while kite surfing? That's the subject and debate of its own, and the internet is full of it. Me personally, I am going to use a leash when kite surfing and wave riding on a surfboard. And if you should do the same, that's totally up to you. The choice is yours. Let's move on to another interesting add-on to your board, which is action camera mount. I use the GoPro camera during my sessions with an amazing accessory called bite mount. Click at the top of the screen to watch my video about this accessory. Being able to create additional point of view and angle from which you can watch the action seems to be a very interesting idea for me, especially because I can almost seamlessly merge those accessories together. The GoPro bite mount comes with a quick clip, and the surfboard mount provides the socket for it, so I can quickly transfer the camera from one angle to the other. In my GoPro bite mount video, link above, you can see that I am using additional safety leash for my camera. Now I can also quickly disconnect that leash and transfer it to the safety anchor point provided with the surfboard mount. Let's see how and where to install this mount. First, apply the sticker onto the mount and anchor point, and also attach the safety string. In terms of locating it on the board, you've got two options. You're either gonna stick it right in the middle at the top of the board, but not too high so the water impacting won't constantly change the angle of your camera, Or like me, you are going to place it slightly to the side to create interesting angle. If you are riding waves mostly in regular stance, that means left leg forward, you can put it more to the right. If you're riding in goofy stance, mostly that is with the right leg forward, you can put it more to the left. Or if you are changing your stance a lot like you would do while kite surfing, you can put it on either side. My name is Lucas, this is Lasem Athletics. I would like to say thank you very much for being with me, watching this video. At the same time, I am asking you to subscribe, like, comment, and share this video. And as always, remember, be inspired, be creative, and be active. I'll see you soon. On to the next one.